Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. My name is Simon Vukelj. I am the Chief Marketing Officer of the Children's Tumor Foundation, and welcome to this special NF Awareness Month webinar. Before we start, please know that captioning is available, so please just click the captioning option at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Each May and all year round, the NF community rallies together to make NF visible, highlighting the stories, the triumphs, and the challenges that millions with neurofibromatosis and schwannomatosis live with each and every day. Today, we have something very, very special for you. In keeping with our theme of Make NF Visible, we are going to make NF research visible, since it is the core of what we do as a foundation. Over the past year, the Foundation's Board of Directors has led a detailed review and analysis of the NF research landscape, including what it will truly take to end NF, and has put together a bold, ambitious, and really powerful strategic plan. And so we're excited to have 4 of these board members here on the call with us today. They are Gabe Groisman. He's CTF's board chair. He lives in Florida. Liz Rodbell. She is CTF's board vice chair. She lives in New York. R.B. Harrison, CTF's board secretary, who lives in New Jersey. And Annette Bakker, CTF's president, who lives in New York. Also, another note, we will be taking Q&A questions, but we're going to save them towards the end. But as we go along, feel free to type in your questions in the chat. So we're going to dive right in. We're going to start with Gabe. And the question that we'll start with you, Gabe, is why? Why now? Why is this the moment where the board of directors has taken on this challenge of creating a strategic plan and vision to guide us forward for the next decade or more? So turn to you, Gabe, for maybe some insights on that.
Thank you, Simon, and thank you everyone for joining. We have 107 participants on this webinar. It's super exciting. We'll be posting this online also for people to be able to watch it in days to come. But why? I mean, the first why is there's millions of people around the world with living with neurofibromatosis, NF1, NF2, and schwannomatosis. And really, that's our focus, our primary and sole focus is finding treatments and a cure for those millions of people. Every journey is different for people with NF, and we all know that very well from our personal experiences. Yesterday, also, the NF community lost Nick Gilbert, 26 years old, lived his entire life with NF1, and we all send our heartfelt condolences to the Gilbert family. The Gilbert family have been partners with the Children's Tumor Foundation for many years and friends, and it's our entire community is hurting today, and tomorrow and for many years to come, missing Nick and his family, and this really only adds to the why of what we're doing and why we continue to push as hard as we all push to find treatments and ultimately a cure to end NF. There's so much positive that has happened over the last several years in the NF research community. So many people on this call know about it. Just a few years ago, there were no drugs on the market, no companies researching NF, and we had heroes like Annette and others on this call that were really just trying to stir the pot and get people out there researching. And so much has happened. We have the first ever drug approved to reduce the size of tumors from inoperable plexiform neurofibromas. We've tripled the numbers of clinical trials on NF research around the world, not just in the United States. We've launched innovative platform trials. Now, there's over 10 biotech companies right now working exclusively on NF and so much more. We're doing so much in Europe and all over the world. So the real question that we had as a board is now the winds have changed. So how do we capture that wind that's behind our back and really catapult us to the next level? We really find that the energy has changed around NF research. Once you find one successful drug, the companies start lining up. So then how do we change our approach? So we really took a real detailed approach. A lot of us, me included, just wanted to jump in to this new approach and let's just run and start funding more and more research. And luckily, our team is full of really, really smart people from different sectors around the country. And everyone said, wait, let's start a strategic plan process. It took 12 months. We hired outside consultants and we put hours and hours and hours of work into a strategic plan to figure out not just what we want to do, but how we're going to do it. And we're going to hear a lot about that today. And really, our primary goal at the end of the day is to find treatments and ultimately a cure to end NF. And it's really an exciting time for the NF community. It's an exciting time for the Children's Tumor Foundation. And with that, pass it back to Simon. I can't wait to hear their presentation from Annette as much as you guys can.
Yeah, thank you, Gabe. No, that was great. And let's just get right into it. Annette, let's take us through the plan. Tell us what's going on.
So first of all, welcome everybody. I'm really excited to see how many people there are. And as Gabe said, yet this weekend again, we were confronted with why we need to go fast, why we cannot let this monster take our beautiful children anymore. So with that, I'm going to share my screen with you so you can get a little bit of an insight of what we have been working on with what Gabe said, the amazing team of a mix of board members and staff members. So the strategic plan is 2023-2028. And this time, the strategic plan is actually an action plan. It is not some kind of static document that we have been generating over the past 12 months, but it's going to be an actionable roadmap. And it reflects, in fact, the priorities of all the stakeholders. And for those of you that were not aware, we have interviewed together with the consultant, many people from very different backgrounds. And there was this unanimous agreement that since we have one drug approved, we want more. So in fact, let's, as we always say, the beginning, let's in the beginning start with the end, like what is our end goal? What is our North Star? And in fact, our question today is, does any action we're doing at the foundation, any project, any investment, will that bring us closer to getting more approved drugs, which is so unanimously agreed on by the entire community? So one of the things that we have been known for, as you know, we have a lot of friends in partner foundations throughout the NF space. I think what has made us unique over all those years, 45 years, by the way, this year, is that our fight is for everybody. Everybody in the sense of NF1, NF2 related schwannomatosis, non-NF2 related schwannomatosis, no difference in age, location. We won't let anyone behind in our fight against NF. So how does our future look? What is this ambitious plan that we have put together? And it's in fact has led to 5 main objectives. We want approved drugs, as I said before, for everybody, everywhere. We want to be that central address. And that central address means that CTF wants to be a one-stop shop for both information and resources for everybody, not only for the patients, but also for new researchers or for new healthcare providers. Everybody who comes into the space finds that central address at CTF. The next topic is the global trials platform. We have amazing investments from the CDMRP in the NF Clinical Trials Consortium, and we definitely want to help make that even a stronger platform. We have the first NF2 related schwannomatosis platform trial up and running, led by Scott Plotkin from Harvard. We want to further strengthen that. And we also want to globalize. As you know or not know, we were part of a 26 million euro investment from the European community called the Innovative Medicine Initiative, where we have developed new platform trials for all forms of NF. The fourth one is we want more preclinical models, because it is like a machine, right? If you get more clinical trials up and running that are really efficient and that are able to evaluate drugs very quickly for our patients, you need a machine that can kind of, to put it for the lack of a better word, that can spit out the right drugs, clinical trial ready drugs, to then go into the clinic. So we want to invest also in preclinical models that are available to everybody. And last but not least, we really feel strong about investing in a global clinic network to make sure that we have quality care regardless of age and location, geographical location. So as you know, we have been shaking up the system quite a bit over the past couple of years. And I just want to make sure that you understand that we're not done yet and that we will get even more bold at CTF in collaboration with our other funders. The Strategic Planning Committee has in fact devised 4 main pillars. The first pillar is about being laser focused on research, because at the end of the day, where we will get the new drugs from is from the new discoveries. It is the science that will fuel the drug discovery, that will fuel the clinical trials. So we will definitely keep staying focused on research. The second thing is that strengthening the drug discovery and development infrastructure, which is, as I said before, that machine that will spit out assets or drugs that are ready to go into the clinic. Then we definitely wanted to strengthen our clinical trials. And last but not least, we really want to invest in education and empowerment of our patients. Let me go through the four. So first of all, the research focused. We will be focusing on three main things. One is we will pursue more of those grants that will get us faster to the clinic. A discovery that stays a discovery is not enough for us. We really want to make sure that if a discovery is made, that we can actually bring that and that will lead to a better treatment for patients. The second is to develop better selection tools. It is a way, if you look at drug discovery as a filter system, you start with hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of potential drugs, then you have to filter them through different filters to end up with one or two in a clinic. So you can imagine that your filters, in order to make the right selection, to bring the right drug to the right patient at the right time, these filters are absolutely crucial, because if you select the wrong drugs out in the beginning, then you bring obviously the wrong drug to the clinic. And then the third one is that, yes, the NF research space is growing, but we want to attract more people from outside. Everybody who is smart and who has done something fantastic outside NF, we want them in our space. And we hope we will collaborate with all the 150 people that are on the call today to make sure that we attract the best and the most talented people to this NF space. When it comes to the infrastructure, what we are going to do is develop what we call a preclinical hub in partnership with some others, such as the IBRI or some other foundations. And it is really to become also that one-stop shop for treatment. Normally, let's say in the traditional world, all these different experiments, all these different spokes on the hub that you see here, they're done in a sequential way. So you first test in a cell, then you do this, then you do that. So what we want to do is we want to do as much as possible in parallel by also offering some kind of all these spokes that went through due diligence by the Children's Tumor Foundation, to make sure that for companies it becomes really easy to test their drugs quickly. When it comes to strengthening clinical trials, as I said before, we will now develop and expand our clinical trials network and our clinical network globally. We want to co-fund that global trial network, whether that is together with CDMRP or with the IMI or with other of the partners that are for the moment part already of existing platform trials. And then the last one is we want to implement these global platform trials, because as I can explain to any of you who is interested, that is again a fast way to test drugs quickly. So it makes it really efficient for companies to figure out if their drug works or actually doesn't work. Education and empowerment, super important. For the moment when clinical trials are run, the only moment in other, let's say in the other spaces, the only moment where patients can speak up is to say, I do not enroll in this clinical trial because I don't believe in it. And in fact, 1/4 of the clinical trials in rare disease fail because of low patient recruitment. It takes forever to convince patients to be part of a clinical trial. What we want to do and what we are already doing is educating the patients so that actually they have a seat at the table. And as you see in RAINS, patients are part of developing outcome measures. So what matters to me as an outcome measure? And 2, they co-design clinical trials. So now you have people that actually know from day one what kind of clinical trials will be run. So that will reduce patient recruitment because patients understand. The clinicians who improve the care, that of course will also lead to our education. We have already a couple of education efforts, mainly in Europe, that are running to really train the patients to more clinicians, in fact, to take care of our patients so well. And then, as I said before, we're expanding the field to make sure that more researchers are coming into our space and help us accelerate not only discoveries, but also translation from discovery into clinical benefit. And then the second, let's say, chapter of this education and empowerment is to empower patients to become part of the NF registry, which of course is hugely important for patients, not only to stay informed, but also to let researchers research patients with NF, and to also show the world that we are many patients and that they cannot ignore us. Create a network of patient ambassadors who are highly educated and able to talk to anyone in the community, from clinicians, but also regulators, government, and anyone. And then the last one, of course, is patient engagement, to make sure that we're bringing the right treatments to the right patients and that those are the treatments that the patients want. Of course, a strategy won't be a strategy if there wouldn't be also an operational plan associated to it. And we will make sure that we're using your resources and our resources as wisely as possible, completely staying focused on our goals and making sure that it is the best possible experience for everybody who is coming close to our foundation. First is related to strategic communication. So as we said before, we want CTF to be that central hub. So we have to really build a central trusted source for information and education. We have been very strong, and that has been, we've been helped and been really lucky to have a partnership now with American Airlines, who is helping us become every day a little bit more data and metric driven, in the sense that we actually exactly know what we're doing and that we know how we can best spend our resources to make sure that the impact is as quickly as possible. We, of course, want to be on the forefront of the news, because if more people know about NF, they care about NF, and those patients that are out there that feel lonely and don't know yet that we exist, we really want to offer them a community to become part of, because we've heard from parents how incredibly important that is. And of course, we want to build a global NF authority. We want to build that global NF community, because we need to have a global presence, because NF is still a rare disease, and the more clinical trials we have, the more it is important to work globally. Of course, we will make sure that we are an organizational, effective organization. We will invest in our tools to make sure that our work is efficient and that we work as efficiently and effectively as possible. And of course, we will invest in our people, because as we all know, it is the people that make an organization. And I'm very proud of my team, but we're all a little overstretched. So we have been hiring and are hiring some additional help here to make sure that we can keep doing the work that is so needed in order to go fast. When it comes to fueling our future successes, as I said before, we want to be driven by data, not only research data, but also patient and clinician data, but also donor data. We want to make sure that we're investing our resources, our time, and our investments in the best possible way. We want to be global and inclusive. We want to action over talk, as you know. And then when it comes to donations, we have mapped out the plan. And in order to do everything I just talked about, we will need to raise about $130 million, not in 1 year, of course, but over the time frame of about 6 years. Now, here comes the call for action. Where do you see yourselves? There's so many paths you can take to be involved and make a difference. And all of your individual contributions are equally important, and we need everybody's help to achieve our goals. And what is really important here, and this is my invitation to all of you, find your place in our movement. So I would like to thank you very warmly for this. And please, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Great. Thank you, Annette. So if people have questions about the presentation or anything else that we talked about and we'll talk about, please do type them into the chat and we'll get to them afterwards. I think that the second to last slide is a perfect segue, and we'll maybe turn to RB, and it's sort of, finding your place in the movement. What does this mean for me? And maybe RB, if you can take on sort of the two big categories, patients and their families and sort of the implications there, and also then research in the scientific and medical community too. So big topics, both of them. So toss those to you.
Thanks, Simon. those are great questions. And it really is the lens we used as a board. As we went through each of the pillars Annette just presented, with so many unknowns and uncertainties in the lives of NF patients, we asked, and we did our very best to answer, what can we do as an organization to better the lives of people with NF? So let's take that first group in your question. What does this mean for patients? Knowing that the benefit is approved treatments for all forms of NF, and hopefully one day the Holy Grail, cures for all forms of NF. Like with any initiative, you need to start by knowing your end goal and determining what the steps need to be to get there. So let's discuss that process here. In order to get approved drugs for NF, you have to have clinical trials, the testing that takes place to show the drug works and is safe. But it's not as simple as just show up and the trial happens. As anyone can tell you who has participated in a trial, it can be a very tough experience with both hope and fear ruling each and every day. Hope that it will work and fear that it won't, along with any potential side effects. I mean, my family has personal experience with this. My son has NF too. 6 years ago, he joined his first trial in axtinib, which is a kinase inhibitor approved for renal cancer. Unfortunately, that did not work. But 3 years ago, he joined the Intuit regatinib trial, a non-small cell lung cancer approved treatment. And for 3 years, his target tumors, which are his vestibular schwannomas, has been stable. But I will tell you, my wife and I, every 4 months, the angst amps up as we go into an MRI. And what are we going to find? Is it going to be good news? Is it going to be bad news? So it is a trial. So in order to be prepared for these studies, which are the essential step to approve drugs, no clinical trials equals no approved drugs. The trials need to be effective in getting patients and their families engaged and educated. They need to know the trials are happening, and they need to be recruited at the right time or the trial can fail. As Annette mentioned, the 25% of rare drug trials fail for lack of involvement of patients. And that's why the strategic plan is so focused on that aspect, ensuring that anyone and everyone can step in at a particular point in their journey and find something that works for them and also benefits the journey to approved treatments. Now, look, I'm not saying clinical trials are for everyone. And in fact, most people are never going to participate in one. But for them to work, there are things that anyone can do. The biggest one is join the NF registry, but also be knowledgeable of the condition you face. There's a lot of mistaken information out there on NF, and CTF is committed to making sure that the best, most accurate information is out there. We want to be the one-stop shop for all things NF. The other implication for patients is to be able to reach the patients not currently connected to CTF or any of the NF groups out there. So that's why we focus on strategic communications and operational excellence. We want to expand the community so that all that are affected are engaged. As we all know, NF can be lonely. It is by definition a rare disease. So an emboldened patient population can not only help themselves, but all who are dealing with NF. And you know who else the patients can help? The research. And by that mean, I'm talking to the larger group. Anyone who is in the broader scientific community of researchers, doctors, nurses, and anyone working to try to cure NF, or who are providing medical care for people who have it. As a result of having a connected, powerful, and ready patient community, the NF research community will have the information they need to be more effective for the patients. Importantly, they have a very powerful partner in CTF. We fund their work, we'll talk about that in a second, but also provide the essential tools and knowledge they need. We try at CTF to be the definitive source on NF. So in addition to the funding, the big items needed to move research forward, the NF registry, the NF conference, early stage funding to test the new and bold ideas, we sat down with the scientists and doctors to take a look at what the blockers were. What do they need to go faster? And that's why we see the focus on big investments. a willingness to go beyond seed funding and to make smart, calculated, opportunistic investments that will not only jumpstart, but make some big leaps forward to the answers that we all need. Some examples: investments in NF Flexion, who is working on a topical treatment for dermal tumors in NF1. Investment in a biomarker study, a blood test that could help determine if a tumor will turn malignant, otherwise known as MPNST. Investments in gene therapy for both NF1 and NF2, and pain studies for schwannomatosis that will have an impact and a benefit for all forms of NF. And there's more in the pipeline. We are at an exciting, marvelous, wonderful, and truly promising tipping point. But it's going to take everyone to get on board and make it happen.
Great. Thank you, RB. Sorry, I was on mute.
No worries.
Yeah. So I think the next big question, at least I know I'm thinking about it, and I'm sure you are, and I'm sure our audience here is, and we'll turn to Liz for this one, is how are we going to do this? You know, I mean, this is an ambitious plan, the plan that the board devised and with Annette and the rest of the team. Can we do this? Are we being too ambitious, or is this just right? And how are we going to make this happen financially and otherwise?
Well, you just heard a lot from Annette and RB about our plans and our goals. And the answer to Simon's question of can we do this is an emphatic yes. We have grown our funding over the last 4 or 5 years by 50%. We will continue to do that. And I'm going to walk through some ways that we see that growing. And also, we have proof. We have a drug that has been approved, and we have companies that are interested in us now. So it's the time to act. And Annette mentioned the number, 5 to 6 years, $130 million. Well, guess what? I believe if we do things right, that number is going to grow because there is momentum. So I am super energized about everything that's going on at the Children's Tumor Foundation. And really, the reality is to really get approved drugs in a meaningful way to end NF, it's going to cost more than $130 million. But this is our pathway over this period of time. And we do believe it's a very well thought out plan, and it's got momentum. We also really have a passionate community, and we're, many of us on this call, the 3 board members, all have family members that are affected. And I'm sure many of you that are on this webinar today are in the same situation. Hopefully we have some researchers with us too to help join our mission, but really a passionate community supporting the Children's Tumor Foundation is really key. There are really, I think, 3 key strategies in front of us to move this needle to the targeted fundraising that we're looking for. And number 1 is really do what we're doing right now, which is we have a community that cares, that is out there with walks and special events that really do fundraise and strengthen our community. We must continue to do that. Secondly, we want to reach those that are affected, but not yet participating with us. And though that will happen through the great communication that we are going to continue to work on as the central address for NF, NF1, NF2, and schwannomatosis. And we will focus on not only what comes through events, but individual giving and hopefully major giving. Third, and Annette spoke a bit about it, is partnerships and investments. And we have an NF-ready investment strategy for pharma, for biotech, and other partners outside of the NF arena that we can then repurpose drugs to help solve NF. So we really have the toolkit in front of us to make this happen. With all that being said, CTF is an awesome and safe place for those to bring people together to solve this rare disease. At the same time, we want to open doors, or as we put it in our internal talk, break them down as we solve this problem. We want to bring funding and investment to where we believe we can win and win quickly. And we really look for your support to get the message out.
Really good. And I think in May it's always good to talk about, the support needed to fund the research to end NF. May is a particularly good time since we're all here, and certainly you see what it costs to be able to do what's been laid out here today. May is also a good time for the non-monetary, dare I say, things that happen, and other awareness raising activities that anyone can really take place, whether you're ready to make any other support. So I don't know, Liz, if I could sort of call back on you again to maybe talk about that a little bit.
Sure,
Yeah.
Happy to.
Sure.
So first and foremost, and many of you being here today is meaningful because that shows your engagement. But engagement is key. And, I can just tell you a little story about, for me, my engagement began when my daughter was diagnosed with NF when she was just 9. And she really led the charge. She was the one that said, I want to make a difference. I want this to be a moment that I can help others and hopefully help this cause. And at 9 years old, little did she know, and that's already 14 years ago, and so much has happened. So we followed her into really partnering with the Children's Tumor Foundation, and so much has happened. So wherever this takes you on your journey, get engaged, and we will be there to partner with you. And also, if you can give, please do. Money helps. And this is going to be costly. And third, if you have connections, if you have possible donor connections, if you have researchers, if you have connections in pharma, if you have connections in biotech, if you have connections in media, all those parts and pieces of what we're doing as a community, we together can really win. And everybody, I would say, knows somebody. And as we have conversations, and this is an intimate community, as we talk together, we find all of a sudden we can unlock doors. So please reach out to us. We're here to support you, and think about how you can help us on this journey. And lastly, help us make some noise. And I think what we're going to do today is talk to you a little bit about NF Awareness Month and what is happening right now, and NF Awareness Day on May 17th. And I'm going to turn it over to Simon to tell you a little bit more about this, and maybe I'll add some closing remarks to that.
Sure. So as Liz mentioned, May 17 is World NF Day. And as anyone who's been paying attention for the last few years, we've been doing a wonderful World NF Day live event, but this year is even better than before. So as you can see on screen, we are hosting a live stream on May 17, and this is the culmination of a day of activities and again, and I'll put up a link at the end, but if you visit makenfvisible.org, we have Shine a Light. We have hundreds of buildings and icons lighting up around the world, including for the first time, the Empire State Building and other places. We're encouraging people to wear blue and green and activate in your community. Anything from handing out stickers to putting lights on your house to whatever you feel comfortable doing in your place of work or home or school. But then we all come together as a community, truly as a global community that evening. And the information there is ctf.org/live. But what is new this year is that we're also hosting watch parties around the country in about a dozen locations, coast to coast. And this year's stream will be a focus on storytelling to Make NF Visible campaign. If you've been following that, we have tons of new stories, which are truly impactful and worth watching, including user-generated videos that many of you on the call probably have submitted to us, and frankly, are probably even better than the stuff that we put out together because they're real and they're raw. And then we're really excited that we have a two-part, for the first time ever, world premiere of a documentary featuring two NF heroes, Catalea Castanon with NF1 and Nicholas Lindeback with NF2. And then, after I think a few years of the pandemic, I think any time we have a chance to be together is a good chance. So it'll be nice for people to meet each other if there's an event, certainly near you, or you can even host one in your own home. So if you go to ctf.org/live, you'll find Kim Robinson's name on there, and she'll be able to connect you on that front. Liz, I don't know if you wanted to add anything that I've forgotten about this part.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, there are 12 across the country that are already scheduled. So if those are near you, please sign up and join us, including in New York City. I'm going to be co-hosting with a few other NF moms an event on May 17th. And we're super excited that we are also have a match that evening. So for those that donate on May 17th, we have a match so that your money goes further. And we hope to see you all there. And I think it's going to be a great day. And I'm super excited to seeing all the buildings lit up across the entire world. It's a very, very nice moment for us to become more visible.
Excellent.
And with that, I think I am turning it back over to Gabe.
I think there's a couple of questions in the
Yeah, let's
chat.
do the
Yeah,
question.
maybe let's do some Q&A.
Okay, question.
So I've been looking a little bit through the questions as well. I saw two main things coming up. So there is a question around gene therapy that I've seen asking a few people about, and I apologize, I haven't talked about it, but because of course we are investing in gene therapy. We have one NF1 gene therapy effort, which is a collaboration between Australia and Harvard. It's a very interesting collaboration where the one is looking at gene editing and the other one are looking, and the Australian group is looking at gene therapy delivery for NF1. That is an effort that is led by Vidya Browder from the Children's Tumor Foundation, the Director of Research, and that is also managed and co-led by Peggy Wallace, who is one of the discoverers of the NF1 gene. So that is one effort that is going on and moving fast. The other effort, when it comes to NF2, there is, as you know or not know, there is a company called NF2 Therapeutics, and we have been investing in that company for many years. And I can tell you that we have the non-human primate data today, which means that we're getting really close to be able to either say it doesn't work or be able to go into the clinic. So I just want to make sure that you know that we are heavily investing in gene therapy. I also want to recognize here, 1 second, our friends from the Gilbert Family Foundation have also invested a lot of money in NF1 gene therapy, all kinds of different modalities, gene therapy modalities. And then the NTAP, our friends from the NTAP Foundation or organization out of Hopkins also have a nice and comprehensive gene therapy program. And what I think I also want to share here is that we talk to each other, right? We strategize together to make sure that we don't duplicate efforts. So there was another question around American Airlines, and that is in fact a very nice story of a mom who unfortunately lost her daughter to NF1, who is an executive at American Airlines, came to us and said, I want to help in honor of my daughter. She was able to motivate and create a whole movement within American Airlines. We did an American Airlines Charity Day to look at our donor data with 120 IT professionals who have been working an entire day to help us understand our data and how we should structure it in order to make it more actionable. Fast forward, Patty was able to assemble a data advisory board for the Children's Tumor Foundation, and they have really been super helpful in strategizing on how we best look at our data, because as they say, which is true, they are looking at their customers, at their travelers, and we're looking at making our customers as happy as possible, who are our investors. So very helpful, very constructive collaboration so far. When it comes to information around clinical trials, I saw that Simon put on that we have that we follow the clinical trials that are ongoing. There is many of them. That is about 60 now that are ongoing at the different levels. So phase 1 is safety, phase 2 is first efficacy, and phase 3 is, efficacy on many patients. All these trials are going on. We don't have the data yet, but what we do know is that there is a lot of energy, not only single drugs, but potentially now also drug combinations. So lots is happening, and yes, we need to raise the money. I also want a little plea to our friends from pharma. If anyone is on the call, please open your doors. I know you have drugs that can help our patients. Please open your doors. So I'm back to Simon.
Sure. And I think, and I answered, I think, what I could there. And I think for a lot of the clinical trials questions, I hope Annette was able to give you a summary there. If you have more questions, you can always reach out to us at info@ctf.org, where we can help. But certainly visit the website and the clinical trials page, or reach out to Kate Keltz. And again, if you reach out to us, we'll connect you with Kate, who can provide more information. There was a question, I did put the link in the Q&A about biomarkers. And just that was an interesting, if anything, the investment we've just made recently is a good reflection of, I think, what the plan is trying to do. So Annette or RB or anyone who might want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the biomarker study, so one of the things is a lot of our patients have what they call benign tumors. I hate the word, but those are tumors that grow but do not metastasize, and that is in NF1. And some of these tumors, in 10% of the cases, become malignant, and then they become aggressive and can be lethal. What we want to do is we want to find methodologies to identify those nasty bastards as early as possible so that we can act. So that is the whole reason of biomarkers. A biomarker is, in fact, a little indicator that you should act, that there is something going wrong. It can also be an indicator of that you're doing the right thing. So that is what it helps you understand what you're doing or how a disease is potentially progressing. So that is a study that is ongoing now. There's a blood marker to identify early malignant transformation of plexiform neurofibromas in malignant peripheral nerve sheath tumors. So that's one study. And, we're trying to get more biomarker studies up and running, potentially even with European funding. But, for the moment, I don't want to be too hopeful. Don't want to jinx it, but let's see if we can get more studies there, because I'm a big believer in biomarkers.
And that's our scientists on the panel. So we're going to toss another scientific question here, or in that realm. Someone asked about, a lot of people with schwannomas, but without diagnosis. Any plan from CTF? So I thought maybe this is a good chance to talk about the diagnostic criteria update and sort of what we're doing to help improve diagnosis.
Well, you have helped write that, Simon. So go.
So you want me to answer that question? I'm not the scientist, but sure, we can do that. So
I'll jump in if it's not okay.
And that will tell me when I just play one right on TV. So anyway, so a couple of years ago, the Children's Tumor Foundation did fund a global group. I think it was 70 or up to 100 experts around the world who took a look at this issue, particularly with NF2 patients and schwannomatosis patients, which are now together. We'll talk about that in a second. In that they, for the most part, have schwannomas or meningiomas, but certainly not neurofibromas for the most part. So the concern was that patients were being misdiagnosed potentially in looking for neurofibromas when it was a different tumor type. So this particular group spent a lot of work, a lot of time putting together updated diagnostic criteria, and they looked at NF1 as well. So if you visit ctf.org/criteria, you can see the work that they did. And read all about it. Some of it's there are links to the academic papers, but we've also created some infographics that will help better understand what that work was about. But very importantly and very significantly, NF2 is no longer to be called neurofibromatosis type 2. Was one of the big outcomes of this, because of the fear that it would cause potential confusion in a diagnostic realm. So the new term is NF2 related schwannomatosis. So schwannomatosis is a bit of a bucket term, and then NF2 certainly being the largest within that grouping. And then there are other types based on the gene name. So NF2 gene name, NF2 related schwannomatosis. And now I'm probably going too far on this, but we can certainly put links in the chat, or certainly if you visit that page, you'll get a little more information about that. We are, just as a preview, since we're all here, tomorrow we are going to be putting out some updated language to that effect, connected to the NF2 language, as well as, and I guess we'll just put this out here, you have a sneak preview. You guys all called in early, so we are going to be announcing updated prevalence numbers. So I know we've all, the talking points and the reality has been 1 in 3,000 births for all forms of NF. Because of the advances in science, because of the hard work of this committee, particularly Gareth Evans, Scott Plotkin, and others, the new numbers we will announce tomorrow are 1 in 2,000 for all forms of NF. And then you'll see the breakdown for other forms. So NF1 will be 1 in 2,500. NF2 related schwannomatosis does remain at 1 in 25,000. But all forms of schwannomatosis, now I'm going to try to remember the numbers without having them in front of me, but we'll put them out. I think it's 1 in 70,000 for non-NF2. So we'll put those out, but just so you know, they're coming. It doesn't change what we do every day. It doesn't change how you live your lives. But I think it's just helpful to know what the stats are when you're talking to folks. So did I forget anything in it, or did I got it pretty good? Okay, good.
I'll get your PhD this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Please, how long will the biomarker trial run? So I don't know if you want to pick up on that, and then I think we can move on. Yeah.
So the study that we're funding for the moment is 3 years, and that is also an interesting thing. That was a study that was submitted to the CDMRP, to the Congressional Medical Research Program, and what happened is that, you know, we got so many great applications that we're actually running out of money, and I'm on the review panel of the I think it's now called integration program. I don't know exactly how it's called, but anyhow, we're looking at the different grants, and there was one grant that was, we didn't have the money, but it was an excellent grant. So I went back to my board and said, we have this excellent grant. What do you guys think if we fund this? The board was unanimously behind it. And now we have this big grant that will run over 3 years. Multiple institutions, all very well-known institutions, that will be looking for these blood biomarkers for MPNST. But that's again a demonstration that we as funders are really trying to make sure that we leverage each other's investments. And I think that's a very strong property of this community, that we're not trying to be competitive.
And I think there was a final question, and I'm sorry, Sarah, I don't know which point you asked this question about which drug, but we will share actually literally a video in the coming days on the NF2 Intuit clinical trial, which talks about some of the drugs that are being tested. And I don't know if you want to maybe talk about that for a minute, about, you know, brigatinib and neratinib and anything else that.
Yeah, so the first drug, which is brigatinib, was actually a drug that was discovered by surprise during the Synodos, which was that big preclinical platform that we ran across 12 institutions, co-led by Drs. Plotkin, Blakely, Clapp, and Gazella. It was a huge endeavor of 3 years. There were multiple drugs that were spit out of this machine, of which one brigatinib. And brigatinib then has led to the creation of that first ever platform trial for NF2, where we look at multiple drugs for multiple tumor indications, which is vestibular schwannoma, non-vestibular schwannoma, ependymoma, and meningioma. And so brigatinib is in that study now. And then the next drug is the drug that Dr. Plotkin identified, which is called neratinib, is another drug that is ongoing for the moment. And we're actually actively looking with about 5 other drugs that we would like to put into the Intuit trial, but now we're looking for funding in order to make sure that we will be able to run those trials. Why platform trials? Typically, a trial takes multiple years and costs millions of dollars, and this trial is $2 million. And in a year, companies know whether this drug actually, what they say, has legs, right? That there is something, that the drug does something, so they can then make some massive investments in order to bring it to the market.
Right. So before I turn to Gabe to sort of close this out, I do want to just do a quick screen share, and this connects a little bit to what that we've been talking about here at the end, and it just has to do with other places to get information. After this webinar, we will post this webinar online, but just two good places to ask a lot more questions that are coming up as early as June. So the nfsummit.org, and both are taking place in Scottsdale, Arizona. So you've got the dates on screen there. Visit nfsummit.org. That is the Patient and Family Forum. We expect about 400 people there, and it's a great place to interact with other families and frankly, doctors and researchers who will also be on site, and a good place to ask some of those questions. And then the scientific meetings taking place a day after that is one day of overlap where the world's top researchers will come together and focus on probably many of the things we're talking about here today in the strategic plan. And again, before I turn to Gabe, I'll put this up again at the end, but you want more information about the strategic plan, including this webinar, there is a one-page document there, ctf.org/strategic, and that's where we'll be adding more information as it comes along. We do want to give progress updates on a regular basis, so you should expect to hear from that. Certainly when you're on the site, sign up for the little email bar at the end, join our mailing list, and you'll receive these updates as they come along. ctf.org live, again, just for the May 17 events, and your headquarters for all things May awareness, and frankly, awareness all year round. If not ctf.org, makenfvisible.org. So I want to turn to Gabe, maybe to close us out, give us some sort of thoughts, and anyone else on the board too, if anyone else wants to add anything that we've not covered. But Gabe.
Thank you so much, Simon. Thanks, Annette and Liz and RB and everyone who presented. It's invigorating and exciting, even though I've lived and breathed the strategic plan. Just seeing and hearing Annette present it just reinvigorates and excites me and re-energizes me, and I know everyone in the board and everyone in the NF community. But I just wanted to end with a thought that, although we are hyper focusing on research and finding treatments and ultimately a cure to NF, at the end of the day, we're also a community. Yeah, just this last week, in the last 10 days or so, I've spoken to 3 new NF families that reached out to me. They found me online and had big heartfelt conversations that only families of those affected with NF can really understand one another, and we're there for each other. And that's something that anyone on this call that fits into that category can reach out to us, and we still are that community. And I've seen it in the 8 to 10 years I've been involved with CTF, also on the research side. The researchers really just get together and talk, and there's a shared common purpose that everybody's behind. So what I'd like to do first is just thank you. I've never seen a webinar, an hour-long webinar, where we didn't lose anybody. Everybody stayed on the entire time, which is incredible, and it's just a testament to the community and to the plan and to the presenters. And it's really an exciting time. And I urge each and every one of you to reach out to us, to reach out to the foundation. Yes, this is our plan. We need you. We need partners. We need people to come to us with ideas. If there's any way you can help, if there's any way you want to participate financially, through research, otherwise through relationships, like Liz said, we're all ears. We're excited, and we're all going to put our money and our time where our mouths are, and we're super excited to embark on this next phase of the Children's Tumor Foundation. Thank you so much.
Great. And with that, thank you, everybody. Happy May awareness. Please join us in these other activities this month. And thank you for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you.